Hey everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video review, and today we're going to be doing another video game review, and that will be of WWE 12. Now, it comes out on all three platforms, the Wii, the Xbox, and the PS3. I got the Xbox version, the Xbox 360. Now, before we actually get into the review of the game itself, I want to take some time to talk about myself as a wrestling fan, and myself as a wrestling video game fan. I know I talked about this before, and a lot of you guys are going to think this is repetitive, but I think it's important because I want you guys to know where I'm coming from. I'm just not another regular video gamer coming into this game and going to review it as a game. I'm going to review it as a video game fan and a wrestling fan. But I want you guys to know where I stand as a wrestling fan. Like I said, I think this is important to not only for you guys, but also for the review of the game itself. When I actually jump into the review, I'm going to talk more about the goods, the bads, and then overall where it stacks up with the other wrestling games. Now, myself as a wrestling fan. I like to consider myself a long-time pseudo-hardcore wrestling fan. I started watching wrestling back in the 90s. And for me, wrestling was really the Attitude Era. I know a lot of people are going to say that about the era they grew up in, but I really do think it was the Attitude Era, which wrestling was the best in. And I watched wrestling religiously from the mid-90s all the way up to, I want to say, around 2004. And then wrestling kind of went downhill from there. I would watch wrestling still continuously until around 2007, where I actually took like a year off from watching it. I don't know why. I believe it was 2007 that Randy Orton lost the WWE Championship at Backlash to Triple H, and that pissed me off somehow, so I just decided not to watch it for a while. And then I got back in the WrestleMania later. So I've been watching wrestling now for continuously, but I've been just watching Raw. I've been picking up SmackDown here and there, but it's more background noise for me than I'm actually invested in it. The only reason why I'm fully invested in it right now is because my favorite wrestler, The Rock, has returned. So, just to recap that, I was a humongous wrestling fan from the 90s to the, I want to say, mid-2000s. All my friends were wrestling fans. I would go back and watch all the old wrestling stuff from WCW, ECW, from old WWE back to Hogan's time, back to Bruno Sammartino's time. I loved wrestling. But like I said, wrestling kind of died. It became repetitive. It became predictable. And there's very few wrestlers that are actually entertaining. I'm not saying wrestlers are bad, but there's very few I can actually watch and be entertained by. You gotta understand is I've been spoiled when I was a wrestling fan because I had The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Triple H, Undertaker, Kane, Big Show, Chris Jericho, Kurt Angle, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart. I had all those wrestlers plus more to kind of feed my wrestling fandom. Where now there's very few wrestlers that I can really cling on to and enjoy watching. And it's kind of sad. I mean, obviously The Rock has returned, but it's more on a part-time basis. But looking at full-time wrestlers, the only ones I really go out of my way to watch are CM Punk, because he's entertaining as hell. Dolph Ziggler, who is an amazing wrestler. Cody Rhodes, who is also an amazing up-and-coming wrestler. And then I enjoy watching Randy Orton. There's a few other people that I enjoy watching, like Zack Ryder or Wade Barrett, so on and so forth. But really, it's just a select few that I'll go out of my way to watch. And it's just wrestling in general, like I said, has become predictable and a little bit boring. Nothing has really kind of shocked me or grasped my interest, except for that one, that CM Punk thing they did during the summer. That was great. But other than that, nothing's really kind of got into me. So I want you guys to know that I am a wrestling fan, true and true, but I've just been disappointed with wrestling recently. I do not watch TNA. I watch a bit of it, and TNA to me, Total Nonstop Wrestling, or what do they call it, Impact Wrestling now, to me is nothing but WCW Junior. Let's take all these wrestlers from WWE and from WCW and make them our top stars and not use the wrestlers that we have like AJ Styles or Samoa Joe. Let's instead give the titles to Kurt Angle and, oh, Jeff Hardy. And it's like they're reusing storylines all the time. It feels like everyone's taking face and heel turns every 5 seconds. So I don't watch TNA at all, not one bit. But there you go. That is my opinions on wrestling. I enjoyed wrestling so much during the 90s and mid 2000s. For me, wrestling really kind of started to die in 2003 after my favorite WrestleMania, WrestleMania 19. Because after that, The Rock left, Stone Cold left, Undertaker started his "I'm going to take time off every 5 minutes" kind of thing. And it just wasn't the same. But hey, I'm not going to complain about it. As a wrestling video game fan, my first wrestling video game was WrestleMania 2000. I then proceeded to pick up No Mercy, WrestleMania 18, WrestleMania 19, Day of Reckoning 1, Day of Reckoning 2, and then I stopped for a long time. And then I started, because I think that's right around when wrestling started to die for me. And then I came back with Raw vs. SmackDown 2010, Raw vs. SmackDown 2011, and now we're at WWE 12. As for wrestling games, on the whole, I think wrestling games are a fantastic game series because they provide so much to the gamer. Not only do you have solid gameplay in the actual in-ring matches, but you also have, and I dare say this, the best character creation and customization there is in almost any other video game. The level of depth you can go into for your character creation is redonkulous. It is really, really great, and you can make yourself in almost anything you want in there. I have a set create the characters that I've been using since I started playing wrestling games. And it's silly, but I have my own fake WWE universe where I have my own personal wrestler, Andrew, in there. I even have records of matches he's had, titles he's held, and WrestleManias he's participated in, and storylines he's in now. I screw around and I make fake storylines. Who doesn't? If you're a wrestling fan out there and you play wrestling games, you're going to do it. But the level of creation for these games are fantastic. And what really makes them good is I've gone through many sets of friends throughout the years, and when I was big into wrestling, all my friends were wrestling fans, but now no one really is wrestling fans. They kind of have a little bit of a, they watch wrestling when they were younger, but they really don't care about it now. And then I have some friends that downright hate wrestling. For example, my friend Doug hates wrestling. He can't watch it. However, he absolutely loves wrestling games, because you do not need to like wrestling to get into wrestling games. You can simply just like making your own characters and using them to beat the hell out of each other. I mean, it's absolutely fun when you do that. So wrestling games are really open to a lot of people. And like I said, I've been with wrestling games for a while. I've had that break where I didn't play wrestling games. But for the most part, I've enjoyed them. I thought they were fun. And yeah, there you go. For me, actually, I'll get into this later because I'm going to talk about in depth each wrestling game. But let's actually get into WWE 12 itself. I've been talking for 8 minutes and 25 seconds about myself as a wrestling fan and talking about wrestling games. Let's actually talk about WWE 12. WWE 12 is the latest installment in the WWE video game franchise. They broke away from the standard Raw vs. SmackDown title because they feel as though there's really no brand rivalry anymore. And let's be honest, it's kind of become one brand once again, just with two champions. I won't even talk about that now. Maybe I'll do what I'm thinking about wrestling and how I would fix wrestling, because I would fix wrestling. But let's talk about WWE 12. Like I said, it's the latest addition to the wrestling game franchise for WWE. And what WWE 12 promised us is brand new gameplay and innovation and all this new fun stuff we can work with. The question is whether or not it delivered it. So in reviewing this game, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk first about the goods, the stuff that I like, and then talk about the bads, and then just give an overall general feel. So let's start things off with good. First and foremost, this game is a beautiful game. The graphics are top-notch. Even the smaller details are great. And I'm going to use an example, one that I've actually used to measure wrestling games since WWE Raw vs. SmackDown 2010. Maurice, who is a diva, who is actually no longer with WWE but is still in the games. When I bought Raw vs. SmackDown 2010, Maurice would come down, and she really didn't look like Maurice that much. And what Maurice does is when she gets in the ring, she flips her hair. And it didn't happen in 2010. And in 2011, she looked more like Maurice, but she still didn't flip the hair. Now when Maurice comes down, she looked perfectly like Maurice, and she flips the hair. Mechanics for small things like hair make a big difference. It's a beautiful looking game, absolutely stunning. Everyone looks like them, which is great. I really, 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 really do like that. In addition to that, they fixed the problems that I had with WWE Universe mode. WWE Universe, I think, is good idea, and they really kind of fixed what they were doing with it up. But the thing that bothered me about WWE Universe beforehand is the fact that I had to defend my titles in WWE Universe. Sometimes I like to put a title online in exhibition mode, and if I remember back in 2011, I'm pointing over here like you guys know my games are over there, but back in 2011, I could only defend, what, the Hardcore title, the $1 Million title, the Cruiserweight title, and one of the championship titles. Tag team championship titles in a regular exhibition match. Anything that isn't current WWE titles, like Intercontinental, WWE, Worlds, Divas, Women's, and United States. However, in this, I can defend my titles whenever I want, however I want, to whomever I want, which is good. I'm happy about that. They give a more level of detail when assigning attributes to characters. It's no longer just striking, grappling, durability, speed and charisma and stuff. Now you have tag team. Now you have striking offense, striking defense, grappling offense, grappling defense. You also have like adrenaline and recovery rate and all this other stuff added to the attributes we already had, which is again good. It gives us a huge more level of customization to our character when we make it, which again I like. So that's another good. Create your own wrestling ring, I think, is a nice addition. It allows you again a lot more freedom in what you want to do in the wrestling game, which is nice. And this is going to go into the bads also, but they give you an option about creating your own wrestling entrance video. Which again is nice because you get more customization, but it also falls into the bad, which allow me to get into the bad. Actually, first, let me just say the character customization, and this is going to be going into good and bad too. The character customization is good, but it's also bad. I'll get into that later. I don't want to confuse you guys, but it will be also put in later. Okay. Let's start things off with the bad, and you see me getting ready because there is some glaring problems with WWE 12 as much as there's some glaring good stuff too. First bad. I do not care about the storylines, and I have not cared about the storylines of wrestling games forever. They seem tedious and they're stupid and there's no level of creativity in them. Let me tell you a little story about a game named WWE or WWF No Mercy. Quite possibly the best wrestling game in comparison to other games of its time. And just in general. And WWE No Mercy had the best formula for storylines. And let me tell you what the formula is that you select a title, and back then we had the WWE Championship Tag Team, Women's, Intercontinental, European, Hardcore, and Light Heavyweight. If I'm missing something, let me know, but I think those were the titles. So you select a title, and then you would go after that title. And what was interesting about this is that it was like a tree. So you start off from point A, and then you have an event or a match. And depending on what happens, it would branch off into separate directions. So if I win the match, it goes in this direction. If I lose a match, it goes in this direction. If I make a decision, it goes in this direction. If I make the opposite decision, it goes in this direction. In wrestling games now, you have to win. You have to do the set storyline. Back in No Mercy, you didn't have to. Your ending could be completely different from another time you played it. Let me give you an example. When I was playing the game, I was doing, and this is the best example I can remember, I was hunting down the European title with a created wrestler. Not my main one, but a created wrestler. And in it, I screwed up and I lost a match for the #1 contendership. So instead of going for the US title, I happened to veer off and go for another title. Pretty interesting. Another example, and probably the one I remember the best, is when you're hunting down the Hardcore Championship, you get you get talked to by the APA. If you remember who the APA is, the Acolyte Protection Agency, who was Farouk and Bradshaw. Anyways, they talk to you and they say that they can provide you with a service, a defense. You pay $300, and back then money actually meant something because you used it to unlock stuff. You pay them either $300 and they protect you, or you can say no and then you get put into a handicap hardcore match. Again, decisions matter. It's surprising that a game back in 2000 when it came out has more level of depth and more level of variety in its storyline than a game of today. So what I'm trying to get at is that the storylines suck. They may have good voice acting, they may have funny moments, but on a whole they suck. And some people will say, well, maybe that's what the WWE Universe is there for. Yes, but see, the thing about the WWE Universe is, although I can kind of do my own storylines, I have no level of control. Sometimes I want to lose control. Sometimes I want to have that unpredictable factor, which can come from something like WWE No Mercy. WWF No Mercy. I'm just going to call it WWE because I'm so used to it by now. So, the storylines are just silly and stupid and unnecessary. Next thing I do not like, and this happens in a lot of video games, it's not just wrestling games, but I'm going to save this, is that although it has a fantastic cast of wrestlers, I have to go online and buy and download some of them. You cannot know how much this pisses me off. Because when I buy a game for $59.99, I expect everything that is possible for the game to be in the game. I don't have to go online and buy more of that game. When I buy Zelda Skyward Sword, I do not need to go online to download the Master Sword. I do not need to go online to download the Hyrulean Shield. I do not need to go down online to get a certain potion. Everything that is in the game is there. I bought the game, everything's there. When I buy WWE 12, I don't even care if I have to go through the crappy story mode to unlock characters. I'll deal with it. But I do not want to need to go online to download characters that I want to play. Case in point, I pre-ordered this expecting that I would get The Rock. And I did get The Rock. If I went online and I used the redemption code. You guys are probably saying, well, Andrew, why don't you go online? Because I don't have Xbox Live and I don't feel like paying more for a game that I already paid money for. Xbox games aren't cheap. It's not like Wii games where they're like $59.99. These are a whole $10 more. Big deal, $10. It is a big deal. I am broke half the time. So it pisses me off that the 40 plus characters that are unlockable, I have to go online and download them. You do not know how much that pisses me off. It happens like with Mortal Kombat. Why do I have to go online to download Scarlet or to download Rain? Why can't they just be in the game? That's why I love Nintendo. Nintendo, I buy the game, it's there. Their online may suck, but at least when I buy a game, it's there. So that kind of pisses me off about the wrestling game too. Here's another thing. The create the character is great. But it's the same create the character from 2011. I went through and created all my wrestlers from 2011 and all the wrestlers I've been creating for the past, like 14 years. And guess what? They're all pretty much the same when it comes down to the create the wrestler. There's no difference between 2011 and 2010. I think they added one or two more article clothing. And I'm talking about the design, the aesthetic design. I'm not talking about the movesets and stuff. I'm talking about the designs. They're the same thing. And what pisses me off is they don't have that many options when it comes down to hair. Particularly females. Females, they really only have one or two like good designs. The rest are all kind of like silly. But really, put more hair in the wrestling game. The Create the Wrestler is good, but it's just the same thing as 2011, and that makes me mad because I was hoping for more. And granted, you have an immense level of detail. Give me more. Give me more. Which brings me to the Create an Entrance video. Now, back in 2011, what I did is I did a highlight reel for my entrance video. Basically, it was just me kicking John Cena. So when I came out, I did my poses and I showed my title. John Cena was getting kicked in the background. As you can tell, I don't like John Cena. And I'm not going to get into that why, but it was just me constantly kicking John Cena, which was awesome. I loved that video. But I always kind of wanted more, a little bit more flavor, a little bit more life to it. And when I saw in the previews that you could actually have your character do certain actions, like scream out of the ropes or do certain poses during his entrance video, I'm like, oh my god, I can make a cool entrance video. Every entrance video is a preset entrance video with a preset theme. There is basically no customization when it comes down to it. Really. It is not good at all. It was a humongous letdown, and I am pissed off. Some people may find it to be fun. That's good. But with me, I expect a high level of customization in my wrestling game, and I didn't get it with the entrance videos. Ticked off. The entrance videos could have been better. It feels like they changed something with the actual controls when grappling, and I can't figure out what it is, but that kind of ticked me off too. I want to say that it is that I have to back in 2011, if I had an Xbox controller on me, it's down there. I don't feel like reaching it. I believed in 2011 you held down A when they're groggy to do a strong grapple, and then you hit the directional with the left joystick. Or maybe with the right joystick. They switched it around, and I'm getting used to it, but the transition is just silly. Why didn't they just keep it the same? That's not really a complaint. That's just something I want to throw out there. So, let me think if there's any other bad. There wasn't too much new to offer. And allow me to explain. When I played this wrestling game, I was all pumped. Then I made my characters. I made my created wrestlers. And then I kind of stopped playing the game because it feels as though there's not much different when it comes down to overall gameplay from 2011. You have the Predator system, but it's not really anything overly that special. The gameplay is relatively the same, and it's being affected by the Madden syndrome. The Madden syndrome is every Madden game is usually the same from the previous year, with the exception of maybe one tweak here and there from gameplay. Same thing with the wrestling games. It's starting to fall under that syndrome. The game that's released is better than the previous year because it has better graphics, maybe one or two more features, but it's kind of similar. So that kind of pissed me off too. Whether or not you should buy it. Now, you're probably thinking that I am going to say no because I have been listing some pretty bad things. But I want to make note that a lot of these things that kind of piss me off has been things that have been pissing me off with wrestling games a lot. It's not just WWE 12, although WWE 12 pulls it off a little bit better than other games because I actually really like 2010 and 2011. WWE 12, it just didn't have the wow factor that the other games did. However, it is not a bad game. WWE 12 is a okay game. It's a good game. But it doesn't provide anything new or anything exciting. Nothing to make me stand up and clap and give a standing ovation. What I recommend is if you're a wrestling fan or you love wrestling games, I recommend actually waiting a bit. Play WWE 2011 or Raw vs. SmackDown 2011 because you're going to have the same experience with that than you're going to have with this. And wait till this goes down in price. Wait 4 or 5 months. See if you can get it used. But I wouldn't pay full price for this. There's some glaring things that piss me off, but looking past those is still a pretty good game, and I still enjoy myself playing it. I enjoy myself playing it, though, with my friends, not alone. So, on a whole, it's an okay game. Plain, flat, and simple. It has its problems, but it does have a lot of good to it. So, I'm going to end this video here. WWE 12. Well, if only you could have been better, but you still please me. This is Andrew saying, peace out for now.